I'm like a Muppet with teeth. Hi, guys. Welcome to Stone Soup Poetry. Thank you for coming back after our 1 week hiatus. Stay tuned for more features in January. That's right. I said, fuck December. We're not doing any more features. It's going to be all open mics unless someone comes in surprise as like a surprise entry in the WWE Royal Rumble as number 30. They want to be the last one of the year. We will. Thanks for someone. Thanks for someone to whoever got that. We are most definitely shooting for that, and we might do a Hail Mary and do a live show before the end of the year. I just don't know what I can muster between work and everything else going on. Tomorrow at Oddball Magazine, stay tuned for a call for submissions. The Christmas wars are beginning again. As a matter of fact, I think the defining first salvo took place this afternoon at the Fox Christmas tree. So there's no ceasefire in New York. I'll tell you that much. So I've tried all these jokes on the people before we actually start the recording. So that's why everyone's not laughing uproariously, people. But more importantly, the call for the Christmas war submissions. We've been doing this for a while now. Does anyone even care that there's a war on Christmas? Are you for Christmas? Are you pro, anti-Christmas? What way do you want to spin just the whole concept of the Christmas wars? We're hopefully going to have some new banner art from TJ Edson. We'll hopefully have some brand new contributors. I want people to go absolutely nuts for this. This is a great time for me because it's easy to use the same art over and over again for the Christmas wars, but we'll also get to use the cartoon art from Eric and Peterson and a host of others. Bonnie Matthews Brock has already sent some wonderful Christmas themed art. So this is as good as the Halloween Horathon call for submissions. I'll probably be setting all that up for tomorrow around 9 o'clock. You'll be able to send your submissions, and you'll be able to do it up until the first Monday of the holiday week. And then we'll do the Christmas wars leading up to Christmas Day. I think that's how it works. Trying to look at the calendar right now. So yeah, you'll have up until midnight on Sunday, the 19th. So enjoy, find your words, look for your holiday theme, look for holiday themed visual art if you got it. Anything that's twisted, I love that much. Anything that has a dark take. I have a dark take on holidays these days, if you haven't been able to tell. It's a round robin night, all open mics. That means 2 rounds for round robin. Everyone goes twice. Everyone gets a turn, and I'm gonna stop rambling and go on. You think I never stopped and took a break, and I barely know what I'm doing. Let's go to our first person on the open mic. He has 2 brand new novels, the second and third of his crime trilogy series. I swear I'll read the first one when I have Christmas holiday time off. John, let's welcome up Mr. John Wisek.
Thank you, Chad. Yeah, if you're like me, you need to lock yourself in a bedroom, stay away from your relatives over the holidays, and at least give you something to do. So yeah, 2 new spy novels out. The Shadow Killers is kind of an allegory for the Trump years, and then The Prague Deception kind of deals with the aftermath and some sort of reconciliation. I'll read you just the start of the Shadow Killers that I think gives you a promise of the story at least. And you've got a CIA agent named John Clooney who's sitting in a cafe in Berlin while the TV is on. He's sort of waiting for to meet with the source. The blonde newscaster on the TV over the bar caught his attention. After a brief introduction in German, the scene switched to CIA Director Harris Hayward testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee. As he watched Hayward's jowls jiggle and Adam's apple bounce, the Blaukraut turned to ashes in Clooney's mouth. After serving with the agency, Hayward had gone to Congress, where he earned a reputation as a political hack who never met a crooked businessman he didn't love. In the short time after he'd returned as director, Hayward had shaken up the agency. Clooney thought back on Hayward's conduct at the memorial wall in the North Lobby. Every year, a star was carved in the marble wall for each CIA employee who died in service to their country. This particular ceremony was special for Clooney because terrorists had gunned down his colleague and friend Sandra Masterson 6 months earlier. The memorial was not just for agency employees, but for the fallen's relatives as well. So Clooney had invited Sandra's fiance, Deshaun Williams, and her mother, Margaret. When they met in the lobby, Clooney was saddened to see that Deshaun had gained over 50 pounds and the sparkle had vanished from his eyes. Mrs. Masterson, Deshaun, she was a special lady, Clooney said as he shook Deshaun's hand. If it's any consolation, she died fighting to take down some bad people. Yeah, Deshaun's voice was barely audible. She was a fighter. All Hayward had to do was lay a wreath and read the names of the fallen, but he went off script almost immediately. When I was a field agent back in 1973, the Soviet Union was our enemy. Even though they subscribed to a failed economic model, we have to respect how they handle security. Hayward mopped his sweaty face with a handkerchief. When they detected a threat to their nation, they eliminated that threat. They didn't worry about so-called rights. Even today, the Russians have the right idea in Chechnya. You can't let even one terrorist get away. If America is to avoid becoming a shithole country like those basket cases in Africa and Latin America, we need to be tough and smart, just like the Russians. We can't play nice with Muslims because inside every Arab is a terrorist waiting to get out. It's their religion. Islam says it's their duty to murder Christians. Don't believe me? Read the Quran. In the coming fight, I'll need real men, men like those who conquered the West. If you think the agency owes you a lifetime paycheck because you are a member of some disadvantaged group, get out. There's no place for you here. In fact, go back to where you came from. There's no place for you in America. Clooney glanced to his side and saw Deshaun's clenched jaw. However, Sandra's fiance maintained military discipline, just like he'd done in 2 tours in Afghanistan, by not shouting at the outrage. Now, some will say I'm taking things too far, Hayward continued, but we're at war, people. We're at war. And if Anglo-Saxon culture is to survive, we'd better start acting like it. When Hayward finished his rant, Deshaun's sideways glance conveyed his sense of betrayal. Come on, Deshaun. Mrs. Masterson glared at Director Hayward and took her almost son-in-law's hand. Let's get out of here. Clooney shook his head. For over a decade, he'd risked his life, lied, betrayed, and killed defending freedom. Now the CIA director spouted words that could have come from Hitler or Stalin. The fickle public who'd never sat in a Venezuelan dungeon or Syrian torture chamber like he had seemed fine with tyranny, as if democracy was just an out-of-style fashion like poodle skirts or Nehru jackets. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, John. Grab all his books. There's a link in the chat. Click on it. And let's go now to who we have to follow after that. Yes. Jan, Miss Jan Rowe, are you ready to go? Sounds like you are. It looks like you are.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I loud enough?
Yes.
Okay. I've worked on this piece. I read part of it before. 1970s, driving an hour to Pittsburgh, PA to see Pink Floyd. Hot summer, but the windows are rolled up. The steel mill emissions, heavy, dirty air. In the 40s, morning looked like night. People wore masks. As a kid in the 1950s, the annual town trips to Pittsburgh amusement park, actually Kennywood in Duquesne, we'd be slimed somewhat. End of the day, steel mill emissions, a thin, grimy coating on the park amusement rides, and us. 1990s, Boston, Orange Line, elevated, taken down, still sent to China, returns as the bridge in Arizona. Why China? No steel mills in Pittsburgh. The mills were sent to China to pollute, as if what goes around doesn't come around, and to get rid of the people being able to buy a house, replace an old car, have only one adult work, send the kids to college, have vacations. Trump said he would bring steel mills back to Pittsburgh, but he did not, despite what a East Boston Trumpster said. No more slimy steel mill pollution on Kennywood Park rides and the riders. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Let's see who we have next. Yes, one of our faceless participants. He joins by, I think, Kindle or his own phone, but we never see. We never see his face, despite the fact he has video access. So let's welcome. Maybe he's afraid of losing what's left of his soul. Let's welcome up Mr. Chris Fitzgerald. Just asked him to unmute. There you go. You're ready to go, sir.
You can hear me.
Yes.
You do the same intro with the faceless muted. All right. The first thing is a letter I've sent out this week. It's an interesting letter, and I'm going to read a little poem. I'll be sending you three poems.
Wait
the first
a
is a
second.
conventional poem.
Wait, Chris, something's going on with your mic.
Go
Are
ahead.
you doing something different?
No, I'm not. You can't hear me?
We can hear you, but you're kind of
Can you
coming
hear
in
me
a little.
clearly?
I can hear you clearer now. So whatever you were doing before, just maybe watch how you're moving the mic away from you. Because I imagine you're reading and speaking into your phone at the same time. So just be careful.
Yeah, I picked it up in the first person reading, a little different. I shall be sending you poems. The first is a conventional poem. The other two I consider poems, but most people, because of their harmful education, would say they were poetic narratives. We are taught poetry by teachers and professors who I have found the only thing they know about poetry is that they can't write it. They spout an empty formula line. Poetry shows you how to, poetry shows how, poetry shows you how honest and beautiful the moment in front of you is, not the moment behind you, even if they're talking about something that happened 2,500 years ago. I shall utilize three of my favorite sentences from the English American language the last 200 years, wrote and spoken to establish my worthiness. The first line is John Keats, not in a poem, but in a letter to his sister. The excellence in every art is in its intensity, capable of making all disagreeables evaporate from their being in close relationship with beauty and truth. The second is Walt Whitman, also not in a poem. He said, America itself is the best poem. The third, D.H. Lawrence. It was the title of one of his poems. The poem itself is ridiculous and pathetic. The title is, What a Mess We Made Out of Love Once We Had an Idea of It. That line demonstrates for all to see the emptiness which is at the center of all English and American romantic writing, and the poison at the center of the British Empire. Take up the white man's burden. I've beaten you and flayed you. Mad Island drove you in a poet. Shakespeare washed you. Like John Keats, Walt Whitman, and D.H. Lawrence would take one Martin Luther King Jr. or 3 to 4 quadrillion scumbaggy and Shakespearean actors. Romeo, Romeo, where art thou? Get Juliet. I'll show you my ass, and you can both kiss it. This is called, boy, do I like Dorchester. 1959 to 1969, there was a television show on called Bozo the Clown. I remember the first time I was approached to get involved with the movies. They had heard about the disastrous time they had with their none too silent co-conspirator television, Bozo the Clown Show. Bozo, always never crash. Yeah, that Bozo. Channel 5, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 10 times didn't receive tickets.
I guess the connection was lost. Don't wait, 5 Bill. Oops, he might be coming back on.
Says, weren't you on last week? I was livid. When my soapbox this way, I said, what are you, a friggin' clown? And I realized he was a clown. The friggin' clown. Always laughs, never cries. My ass. That wasn't the way a 37-year-old man should speak to an 11-year-old boy. The tone should always be welcome, not accusatory, be it parent, teacher, or a friggin' bozo in the TV studio. There was no more trouble after that. 40 years later, I hear from the movie people. They think I just might be an interesting poet to make a movie about. I write my nouns and verbs in blue pen. I write my adverbs and adjectives in red pen. Also, according to the Guinness Press, people are the first poet to utilize 6 adverbs in the first 2 stanzas of a poem. Browning at 5.
And I think we lost him again. He won't die. He keeps on coming back. He won't stop.
$30 if you had the coupon. $30 if you told me you didn't have the coupon, but I thought you did have the coupon. Lie to me just to save a couple of bucks. In those days, unlike today, financial transactions were not always on the up and up. Thank you. Were you able to hear that clearly?
We heard it perfectly, but you bounced back and forth 3 times. I don't know what's going on. You might want to find a part of the house or wherever you are where there's more than 2 bars in the Wi-Fi, because you literally jumped in and out you jumped off and back on to our call without having to go into the waiting room like twice.
I'm now reading from my house. I wasn't doing that the last 3 months because I found a spot I could do it now, and I couldn't before. And then, so I do have to work the kinks out. But see, you took last week off. I would have been practicing then.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll see what we can do. We'll move on, and I'll go to the another one of our faceless contributors. And give me 1 second. There we go. And for some reason, okay. All right, we will. Chris, you might want to try and jump off and go back on again, because now I'm not even able to mute you and I can hear you in the background. You somehow gone into the matrix. You are somehow immune to any of my control.
I can't get out.
I can't unmute. I can't mute you.
I'm on forever.
That might be the case, and that's not good, because I can hear you biting your nails or doing whatever you're doing in the background.
I'll turn me off and come back on later.
Yeah, just or at least mute yourself, because I can't do it right now. Can you mute yourself?
I am turning it on.
Can you press the button that says mute? That's all I need you to do. Okay, I'm just going to assume that he did, even though it doesn't say it does. He's muted. All right, so thank you, Chris. Okay. Okay, we are. Okay. We are now moving on to nothing else could possibly go wrong after this. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome up the person who I'm about to help unmute in 1 second. The minute I find, here we go. Okay, up next is Laurel Lambert. Up next, Laurel Lambert.
That's what you get for saying nothing else can go wrong, Chad.
Yep, I think you're right. Okay. All right, so let me take a look here. Okay. And I think I just lost Carol too. Okay, perfect. So while I fix that, we're gonna go over to Mr. John Stickney. I have no clever introduction anymore. I'm spent.
I did like you hitting your head on the. That was very. I am a holy wolf. I am a holy wolf. I broke into the economy. I look forward to biting your hand. Almighty monk, do not doubt my resolve. Do not doubt my abilities. I have been successful because of my abilities. I have been successful because of my resolve. You speak of God. I am his guardian. Say to yourself, oh no, this is my prayer for you. Take me not for granted. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm on my way to, it looks like Chris is coming back. Looks like hopefully I'll be able to get Carol Weston back in the next couple of minutes. Technical difficulties. Okay. This is the magic of how poetry open mics work. I'm sure of it. All right, we're going to go to the poet whose Brownstone Poet Anthology that she edited is available now off of Amazon. So I'll be buying that very shortly. Let's welcome up Miss Patricia Kerrigan.
Hi. Happy holidays. Okay, here's some newbies. Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, inspired by Nina Simone. Life does have its problems. You claim I'm part of them, that I say the wrong words at the wrong time and place. Look around you. Am I responsible for your shortcomings, frustrations, loss, and outrage? You saw yourself in the mirror, broke it into 1,000 regrets, needed me to pick up those pieces, carry each one as my responsibility. Don't let me be misunderstood when I say I'm not your lover's keeper. Every rose petal inside this mattress is making room for 1,000 thorns. I'm only human, and the bed I've made is now yours.
Thank you, Patricia. Let's just keep on embracing the God chaos. So I'm going to introduce next Mr. Bill Lewis. And what could go wrong?
Chaos, chaos, chaos. Woo, 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 woo. Chaos rock. God, I love you. Where would we be without chaos? So we're going to do 2 rounds, you tell me.
2 rounds, 2 rounds. One each person gets a turn, unless you want to do 2 rounds in one.
Nope. I just want to make sure that I can leave you on a happy note because I'm pissed off right now. And you, my friends, you are my therapists. Yes, I get to belch out my angers and frustrations here, and you can glare at me and tell me I'm a fool, but you can't fire me, and you probably won't firebomb my house. So you are my therapy group. I went to the holiday party of my representative today, a person who in many respects I love, well, I love and admire. I mean, I think highly of in general, and yet, you know, it's a holiday party. We're not pushing anything, but I did ask her about Kim Janey and the a move to end homelessness and all of this. And she just pretty much said, oh, well, she pushed it aside. She, pushed like everybody does. And I was so frustrated. I hear this again and again, this ability just to push things aside. And well, we'll get to the homeless stuff later or something, maybe. And and all of my friends were so self-righteous, and it just all came down to a moment that you get to observe. To those who would be great. Damn that George Washington. How dare he build a capitalistic slave state society, burn his effigy, tear his statues down. The forlorn cries of the young idealist who is horrified by the evils of others, who will march proudly in the streets against any kind of evil or oppression that he can possibly see. If only he had been there. Oh yes, if our hero had lived in those times, the country would have been changed completely. Yes, our noble, pure, unsullied protagonist, he or she would have changed the world. She, he, or they had been born in 1720, they would have merely explained to the British and established a nation of purity and harmony, eliminating slavery, wealth inequality, and everything else that isn't nice. Had our heroes but been there, they would have convinced the kings of Europe to eschew the purchase of black slaves from Africa. And they would have gone to the great potentates of the Guinea coast and convinced them that no amount of money was worth the life of a human being. So dreams our hero, sitting in that comfy chair, safe from the horrors of drought and plague and war. Yes, our hero would have changed the world, but it is too late now. No sense helping that homeless people in the street. Our hero needs rest, exhausted by all that dreaming.
Stay tuned for the uplifting part, people. That was Bill Lewis. And what do we have next? Oh, yes, I want to go to another phone person who is definitely here. I'll ask her to unmute, Miss Nancy Dotson.
After hearing about war, sickness, a sad day to be sick, and oh, how I ache, the world dying around me. Why, Lord, kill me? I wish to live desperately each day in your creation, rejoicing gladness in each moment, not hating the day because of non-energetic sin, in quietness and loving kindness. I am thine.
Thank you, Nancy. Very wonderful. Up next. Oh, I almost forgot. Oh, we are not done yet with the, I thought we were almost gonna go right to Carol, but I almost forgot. Karen Splenny, who is who's not only a poet here and a participant and not only a multiple published author, she's also one of the newest photographers for Oddball magazine. Check out her work. Coming back to us to our pages soon. Let's welcome her up, Karen.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Just testing. Okay. So this poem is called November 2021. Frosty mama in Crocs with warm socks, a ridiculous sight to a teen wearing white riding gloves for tapping wildly on keys. Step slowly on a stone path, then dance around a roaring bonfire that lights up the evening sky, painting a tequila sunset behind the new moon. Gather with squirrels on the tree-hugged labyrinth path. Hear crows calling. Watch leaves falling. The cat prefers to lap water from a jar now. I'm cloaked in dancing sunflowers, spinning stars, and floating almond blossoms. Thank you.
Hooray. And then this weekend it went up to 65 degrees, but and it's supposed to still be fall. Well, at least it's not full winter yet. But now let us welcome up now. I'm gonna unmute her. We missed Laurel, but we've never lost Carol. Well, we lost her for a couple of minutes, but that's okay because now I can unmute her. And Carol Weston, you are up.
Okay, well, on December 10, I'm going to take part in a reading at the Grolier Bookshop. And I guess John Mulrooney is going to read a letter of introduction to me, which is going to be printed in Spoke magazine. All these people are Spoke magazine, but it's probably not a good idea to try to go because it's 7 p.m. at 8 Plimpton Street, the Grolier Bookshop. Well, because you have to have you have to get sort of registered. But if you have a need to go, you call up either Thursday or Friday because the bookstore is only open Thursday or Friday. And get this marvelous guy whose name I'm forgetting.
Vaccination.
What did you say, John?
Vaccination.
Oh! John reminds me that you have to get that. You have to have proof on you that you have had your vaccination. I just had my booster today.
And wear a mask.
And wear a mask. Thank you, John. Anyway. So I'm not nervous. I promise not to be nervous this time because and anyway, so then I thought, well, I want to put a little introduction, and so I'll be careful. Let's see, it's 8:50. It's 7:50. Okay. I am indebted to Ben Bellett at Bennington College, who gave us the notebooks of Gerard Manley Hopkins, complete with sketches, and assigned us to write inscapes, little intense observations of chickens or beer. And he gave us the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci. Leaving Bennington was the worst thing I ever did. At BU, I landed in Lowell's class. Such a sensibility I adored. He went around the class asking, "What have you been reading?" I screamed and fell to the floor. Why was I majoring in comparative literature with a colossal reading problem? I am indebted to George Barker, the British poet at Breadloaf Writers' Conference at Middlebury College, 1959 and beyond, to the anthologist Oscar Williams, who recorded me for a record, and to Tambi Mutu from Ceylon, editor of Poetry London, New York, in Greenwich Village. I am indebted to Jack Powers, founder of Stone Soup, in 1971, when I came back to Boston from Boulder. And now I am indebted to John Mulrooney, who connected the dots of my life as no one ever has before. A special genius, he and Rachel. I am indebted to John Galloway, astrophysicist and poet, who has to listen to all this and celebrates the first day of his 90th year in 2 days, December 12th. That's all for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Congratulations, John. And who do we go to now after that? We'll go to a little musical interlude before we go to Mr. Van Looy. Let's welcome up Mr. Ethan Mackler. Thank you, Ethan.
Wahoo!
And checking for other people who are trying to get in. Looks like it's still just us, just the 11 or 12 of us. We are ready to go to the last person and then start over the round robin. I give you now, I think he is now officially Oddball's longest running columnist, even longer than Jason Wright, the founder of Oddball magazine. He has his column, It's All One Thing, every Thursday morning at 11 o'clock without fail. And of course, it's going to be one of the first people I pick for a live reunion at Stone Soup. Let's welcome up Mr. James Van Looy.
Hi, everybody. So I wanted to read my my Lone Stranger Meets the Drone Ranger poem, or the 50-year cover-up in plain sight. When I grew up, we watched Westerns on our TV sets, and it was so popular that local stations had their own cowboy heroes to introduce the cowboy heroes of the 1930s and 40s shoot-'em-ups. Brave riders who drew fast, shot straight, and were always good, selfless protectors, who rode off into the sun after the showdown. They had names like Hoot Gibson, Ken Maynard, and the Three Mosquitoes. And what a joy to see them loping into the camera toward us, 10-gallon hats tall in the saddle, who would hop from horseback to tree limb, from tree limb to float down near ground, dangling from perfectly thrown rope, and ascending back again onto galloping horseback. They were so graceful in all they did, skipping back and forth over a whirling lariat, only to tip their big hats forward over their brows, never looking for trouble, always first to find a cleverer way out of confrontation, available to another way so steadfast, humble, and true that each episode they show us that even the most draconian conspiracies always contain the seeds of their own destruction. An innocent unpretentiousness will always prevail. In a way, we will gallop on our great pony to cut them off at the pass and bring the word that must be heard to all those who never know what's really going on, only to stop for a moment, just in polite farewell. Excuse me. And doff those huge hats on their rearing steeds, and then shyly disappear in a cloud of dust out towards the brilliant sunrise of the future, where life is waiting not just for them, but for all of us. So that as we revealed in this simple purity, fads broke out for Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett, and every kid had to have a real genuine raccoon skin hat. And before it was all over, gambler and land speculator Jim Bowie had his own show. Jim Bowie was a fiercely fighting man, and thunk, his massive curved fighting knife blade stick still quivering in a tree. I'll never forget finally seeing the show Gunsmoke for the first time at my cousin's house in Detroit, because back in those days of rabbit ear antennas, we only got 2 of the 3 networks, and Gunsmoke turned out to be as grim as Wagon Train. Something truly horrible was always about to happen out on the old frontier, and yet the new frontier was endlessly empty space itself. We always seem to be looking for another new frontier over and over. Now I wake after watching a historian talk until midnight about our forever war that he says began when cousin Jimmy Carter made his Carter Doctrine vow to defend American interests in the Persian Gulf, when the US, us, was already supporting the Mujahideen in Afghanistan to give Russia its very own Vietnam. And Charlie's War was arming Osama bin Laden, in fact, creating his base, Al Qaeda, so named after the CIA database kept at the CIA training camp in the tribal areas. Yes, we were helping those tribal people to kill the Russians. Then, yet soon enough, there they were, inexcusably, flying planes into the World Trade Center towers. And then their trainer from that CIA camp was being tortured in Thailand, of all places. Gee, how did those developments happen? Huh? And how did we end up with a war on whistleblowers waged by the president who had promised the most transparent administration ever? Maybe if we had a draft, we'd have some skin in the terror war game. But it's also bucolic as we graze in those virtual fields forever on that forever war of by and for terror when did the black site gang take over? When did the president become drone ranger? When did the president become corporate Caesar? Who can say to Boudica with her daughters in scythe chariot that her children will become the head of a greater empire than the Romans? How do we live with the sixth extinction in the eternal moment? Hi-oh, silver and away. When the US did buy silver, and it was the great interwar, Great Depression, and FDR that finally got rid of gold redemption, and Nixon himself, who of course got rid of the gold standard. So those banksters have been quantitative easing, whether Keynesian or monetarist, for 40 years. And it turns out Watergate and Iran-Contra were just way stations on the continental migration to the current age state of lawlessness and total surveillance states. And it seems the Lone Ranger has become the lone stranger, who is really the drone ranger. And his theme song, the Will and Tell Overture, that once I used to put my grandbabies to sleep with, a gentle hand on their smooth backs, bump, ba-rump, 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 has turned into childish chant that my head repeats over and over. Drone ranger, let precious peace come over. Drone ranger, let the forever war be over. And where's the Lone Ranger now? And when will we hear happy trails to you? And never be heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Out on the interstices of cultural boundaries and borders, and out on the frontiers in the tribal areas. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the stormy weather as long as we're all here together? Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again. Thank you, Dale Evans. Good night.
Chad, your lips are moving, but we don't hear anything.
How about now?
Now we hear you.
Weird. Okay. Well, as I was saying before, yay, James, but don't go yet. We have one more round of a robin to do. We're going to go back to the beginning, go back to the end, and then stop. Let's start now with the person we had at the beginning, Mr. John Wisek.
Thank you, Chad. Boy, you know, James just made me want to go kiss my horse. Okay, so the next novel is called The Prague Deception, and it's kind of structured like Citizen Kane. It starts off with a massacre, and the thing that you have to know is that Anton Gruber is a freelancer who worked with Clooney for years. With its peaked roof and onion dome turret, the 3-story villa perched atop a grassy hill looked like it belonged in a fairy tale or a nightmare. Concrete steps with steel railing led to what used to be its off-center front door. The Mon 50 remote-controlled mine had demolished that when it projected hundreds of steel bearings into the bodies of the raiding team. A half-dozen dead lay mangled on the blood-stained porch. They'd met their doom before they had time to register surprise. All wore black uniforms, balaclavas, helmets, and bulletproof vests with the word Policy in gold. The triangular patches with cross swords, eagle, and a parachute on their sleeves identified them as members of IRNA, the Czech police's elite SWAT team. Inside, more carnage. 2 team members lay dead in the entryway, their HK-416 assault rifles by their sides. A third slumped over the railing where the stairs had collapsed. Blood soaked his uniform and dripped, sounding like a ghastly metronome onto the floor below. Shell casings littered the worn hardwood floor on the second story. A gunman with a long beard lay in a pool of blood on the staircase to the 3rd floor, where a hallway connected 3 bedrooms. Inside the largest bedroom, a huge man, Anton Gruber, wrapped his hands around CIA officer John Clooney's neck. A gash on Clooney's forehead gushed blood into his eyes, and his clothes were ripped and stained with sweat. As Gruber squeezed, Clooney's face went from red to purple. He drove his forearms into Gruber's elbows and thrust his knee into the big man's groin. Gruber smiled, lifted Clooney off his feet, and tossed him across the room. Clooney landed on a table that splintered under the impact. Desperate to stop Gruber, Clooney scrambled for the Glock 19 pistol in the corner and came up with it raised. There's no banter while Dr. Kilmer and his advisors waited for the technician to set up a secure video feed with the deputy director of operations. Despite numerous tries, the flat panel monitor in the skiff displayed only a test pattern of multicolored rectangles. "Okay, try it now," the technician said to his counterpart in the White House over a telephone. "Nah, still not getting sync. I'll try rebooting." William Tate sipped cold coffee while looking at the officials sitting around the cramped conference table. The air was stale and smelled of desperation. Dr. Kilmer, newly bald from a round of chemotherapy, occupied himself with cleaning his wire-rimmed glasses. Tate was wise to Dr. Kilmer's tricks. His superior affected several mannerisms that allowed him to think before speaking, a useful tactic in espionage. As for his advisors, through decades of bureaucratic knife fights, most had perfected poker faces. They wouldn't give anything away. This was Tate's strategy too. Until he understood the moving pieces, it was best to stay silent and let Dr. Kilmer do the talking. The wait seemed like hours, but in reality it took only 15 minutes before the DDO's face appeared on the video monitor. He was an odd-looking man who wore his thinning red hair close cropped. And I will leave it there. Thanks, everybody.
Grab his books, people. Thank you very much, John. And up next, keep the fingers crossed, people. We're bringing up the SS Fitzgerald. We're going to see if Chris can have another round without getting kicked off 3 times. Chris, if you're there, unmute yourself and let's see what we can do.
Now you can hear me.
Yes.
can hear me now, right? Okay, okay. I usually read this piece the end of August. It's 30 years old, haven't touched one word of it. An introduction says it's 2 poems, but it's only one. I'm only going to read one, but I like the introduction. It's 2 poems because there's usually 2 poems I do with this one. Tonight's 2 poems fall under the heading Girls' Body Parts and the Lies Boys Tell to get the girl to remove articles of clothing so that the boy has a better view of that aforementioned body part. As you're probably able to deduce from the title, I, 2 brothers and sisters, was a sinner. Poetry's been a great comfort in allowing me to see what was going on, what was coming off. The first poem was concerned with the sense of sight. The second was an early exploration into the sense of touch.
No, no, no.
I use the word in this piece that isn't a polite conversation word. Tit. It isn't the tit of the Playboy magazine offering Tonya Hardin $400,000 show its readers and lookers. It isn't the tit of the combat zone, it's an ass repute. Or the extreme wing of a feminist style with the woman being considered primarily as a appendages in an orifice. It's the tit of an 11, 12-year-old Irish-American boy when just the sound of the word was capable. Tit was the first so-called dirty word that a young boy could find in a dictionary, although its definition referred to the nipple on the udder of a cow. My friends and I agreed on a field trip to the South Boston Public Library in the 6th grade that they couldn't really say what it really was, or else all hell would break out first thing in the morning. It being in the dictionary was like hush money to shut us up. They would admit there was such a word, but wouldn't say what it really was. This is what it feel like, Danny. What it feel like? I was in the 7th grade. She was in the, no, I was in the, she was in the 9th grade. I distinctly remember I was a grade ahead of her. It was summer, August, getting dangerously close to back to school. Those long summers, I swear, Halley's Comet was by 4 times that year. The place, the beach, K Street Beach. A bit scruffy, but rich enough to impose a lifelong debt on my imagination. 3 city blocks from where I hung my hat. The days were spent diving off a wooden fence that reached welcomingly into the harbor, an activity that was frowned upon by the local authorities, IDS, NBC lifeguards. The nights, well, on Friday and Saturday nights, the group I hung out with, 4 or 5 boys, 12, 13, went to school, lived in the same neighborhood together, 4 or 5 girls, same as above. We'd engage in games without being boys kissing girls, girls kissing boys. The game that marked the step forward, I guess, was a game called Truth, Dear Consequences, Promise to Repeat. In short, a player would be given 2 options from the category he or she had chosen. One of the options would be so ludicrous and ridiculous that there was only one choice. And of course, the boys knew who the boys liked, the girls knew who the girls liked. The game was basically fixed, but both sides were decent cheats. I had mentioned to a friend that I wouldn't mind taking a walk in the sand, rather grand, but you know, the fix was on. Her turn. Truth, Dear Consequences, Promise to Repeat. Dare. I dare you to take off all your clothes, climb up the roof of the bathhouse, stand down, and shout out at the top of your lungs, the Chairman Mao and his entire entourage of Chinese Communist Empire cohorts. I don't care if you're red. Let's just jump in bed. At the time, we were using Rand McNally's World Atlas as our authoritative source. But our situation, estimated 1970 census, was Red China with 700 million. It was a few years and a few fistfights before the group finally switched to Encyclopedia Britannica. She then said, "What's my other option?" "Well, you can go make out with Danny here." A couple of my friends instantly break out into a soft refrain of "God bless America." She looked at me. Now, I don't know what articles of clothing I had on that night, but from friends later on, I do know I was wearing my best free world grin. Looking back on that group, in a pinch, extremely patriotic. Then she chose me. Through the night, from the light from above. We lay down on the sand about 50 yards from the group. We start making out American style, quickly to the French. We ease up a bit. I so ever nonchalantly sink my right hand onto her fully clothed left breast. I never moved that hand, not once. All I did was kiss her and pretend my hand wasn't where it was. All she did was kiss me and pretend I was one-armed. We finally got up and went back to the game. After that night, that woman seemed to disappear totally from my memory and image bank until 20 years later. I'm walking a mile or so from that earlier scenario, and she's walking down the front step of a triple-decker, 3 kids in tow, 4, 6, 8, I'd say. She sees me, turns quickly to the right and blush. I responded to her, turned quickly to the left, probably blush, but you can't tell from your reflection in the car window, but it felt like a blush. I guess the first time I got tit was the first time she gave tit. My home, sweet home. Why didn't I move my hand? I had to read Sir Edmund Hillary's book on his being the first to reach the summit of Mount Everest. 3 times I had to read it. High Adventure is its title. Sir Edmund, when he got to the top, wasn't doing handstands, somersaults, or cartwheels. Just like me, he was just happy to be there. Waking up the morning after that, reaching the beach, one of those days when it seemed like Mr. Sun himself with his big yellow hands clapping, extolling. Good show, Danny, good show. My pleasure, Mr. Sun. Just happy to be alive. Out in the street to meet the world, 2 friends across the street, non-participants in last night's game. What'd you do last night? What'd you do? Well, I got tit. Well, it felt like a tit. Thank you.
Not coincidentally, Chris, I suspect there's a memorial for, there's an obituary for a mathematician I'm not even joking about this, by the name of Jacques Tits. The mathematician, known as the mathematician behind Tits Buildings, the Tits Alternative, and Tits Group, and the Tits Metric. He died today at 91. And someone posted a headline on
this is in memory of him. This is in memory of him.
And someone posted a link to this on Twitter with the headline "Tits Out." So yeah, someone complained about that and said, "You should have said he went tits up at 91. You had one job." But and this is the one official time I'm glad to be following Twitter. Anyway, what a day. Let us welcome up. Yeah, I thought that joke sucked too. Anyway, let's welcome up next. Laurel Lambert is still gone. John Stickney had to leave. Let's welcome up Miss Patricia Kerrigan.
That was quick. Okay, I'm going to read some haiku for the holiday. This is inspired by my borough, Brooklyn. Festive snowflakes dance. Giant wooden soldiers guard gingerbread mansions. Kids' eyes as bright as Dyker Heights Christmas lights. Brooklyn does Disney. Inflatable Santa kills over railing. Too much eggnog. And last, Santa Kitty makes Grumpy Cat look angelic. Thank you.
Grumpy Christmas kittens. Love it. Let's welcome up next, who he promised us something uplifting to end his stint. Let's welcome up Mr. Bill Lewis.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. La, 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 la. I do want to acknowledge that I obsess about the things that are going wrong, as many of us do, and sometimes neglect to look at how wonderful so many things in the world are, what wonderful opportunities we have, and all of that. And there are at least 6 people who are not on the streets this year because of efforts of myself and my friends and things like that. So, those things, yes, look at what we're doing. We're helping each other. We are out there and just trying to convince my friends and neighbors that they can do things too. That's a polite way of doing it. And yelling at them is not generally effective. So, yeah. Anyway, I appreciate your patience with me. And as promised, you are now ready for Da, 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 da. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Yeah, it's your very own version. I mean, wait, not quite right. We have to celebrate Christmas and all the wonderful things about Christmas and joyful and happy. And I mean, have you ever thought about what you want for Christmas? I mean, when you get into those moods, it's like, what do I really want for Christmas? Me? I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. I don't want a doll, no rinky tinker toy. I only want a hippo I can play with and enjoy. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. I don't think Santa Claus will mind you. He won't have to use our dirty chimney flue. He can bring him in the front door. That's the easy thing to do. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. No crocodiles, no rhinoceroses. I only likes hippopotamuses, and hippopotamuses like me too. I can see myself on Sunday morning creeping down the stairs. Imagine my surprise when I open up my eyes and see my hippo hero standing there. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. No crocodiles, no rhinoceroses. I only like hippopotamuses, and hippopotamuses like me too.
That's funny. Also, The Christmas in Ground Zero by Weird Al Yankovic. You ever hear that?
Oh, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. And also, okay. All right. Thank you, sir. We are moving on to Miss Karen Splenny. You're up.
Okay, this one is not quite yet the holidays, but it can relate. It's called Laughter. Face brightens, spirit lightens, eyes twinkle, skin crinkles, mouth turns up, planting roses in your cheeks. Breath ripples, belly shakes. Best medicine merriment makes. Laughter shared far and wide, the world blossoms with kindness. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And up next is the ever patient, ever present with us, Miss Nancy Dotson, who hopefully can unmute herself, and we'll get to town. We'll go to town. We'll get going. There she is.
Survival, the design of politics, the fall of one's thoughts, amid the fullness of God's being. His mercy has brought the sign of politics. Compromise then and hit the jackpot. Honest structure comes by hard work. No, but of course, one has mercy at the fall. My death, yours or mine. We'll call a call of survival. Survive, yes, for all that is concerned. Come one, come all. I don't want us to fall, not yet. God bless my soul, please, Lord. Bless me for my sake and all.
Thank you, Nancy. And next, we're just flying. Feels like we're flying now. Let's go to Carol Weston. Will it be another segment of this epic introduction, which I'm going to have to probably risk COVID to hear the entirety of? Let us find out. Carol Weston, you are up. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to actually press the unmute myself due to our special arrangement. You're all set.
Okay. It's so I'm going on. The last couple of weeks I read from the poems that are going to be in Spoke magazine, and I'll be reading those on December 10 at Grolier, where God, is it complicated to go there. Anyway, it's strange to live inside an aging mortal's skin. I am arthritic. Come over here and listen to my bones. This pile of exultant consciousness has turned to poison on the floor. I have nowhere to step. How can I stand up straight enough to wrap my arms around the 864,000 mile diameter of the sun? And then this instant is the space over the candle flame where no flame shows, and everything that enters here burns into ashes. I think that's all I'm going to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carol. And now, one more time with the bass. Let's hear it for Mr. Ethan Meckler. Bam! Thank you, Ethan. And now we come to the grand finale for a second time. Thanks to everyone who's been able to stay on. Thanks to everyone who came on such short notice. Thanks to John Wisek for having links to The Cat Came Back as an animated short. Definitely check that out. I believe it's a Canadian-made cartoon, and also looks like a trailer for Bad Santa. So, God, this is not much unlike not unlike my regular YouTube selection playlist of likes and what have you. Anyway, I salute you, sir. We have coming up for the grand finale. Hear him tonight and read his poem at It's All One Thing column tomorrow at oddballmagazine.com at 11 o'clock. And again, don't forget the Christmas War submission call, which will happen tomorrow at 9. And with that, I give you Mr. James Van Looy.
Thank you, Chad. So this is one of my Labyrinth poems here. It's called Labyrinth's Test Screen Pattern. People might remember that the test screen used to come on the television late at night sometimes with a frightful sound.
Yep.
Labyrinth's test screen pattern. There was the proverbial man who awoke, still watching the test screen pattern in the dark, still cocoon of middle night. The test screen that came for Conrad with his piercing whine of sound effect when they ran their drill of emergency broadcast system, which we all knew was really just in case they finally fatally dropped the big one and blew us all, as they used to say, to kingdom come. And kingdom come was where God was. And from the intensity with which we watched, our screams must be in there somewhere, perhaps way, way far behind the test screen. God's heavy hand was cradling us in a blinking web flashing on our phosphor screen. When Louis came home to the flat, he hung up his coat and his hat. He gazed all around, but no wifey he found. So he said, where can Flossie be had? A note on the table he spied. He read it just once and he cried. It read, Louis dear, it's too slow for me here, so I think I will go for a ride. Meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there. We will dance the hoochie coochie. I will be your tootsie wootsie. If you'll meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And thanks to everyone who came tonight. Appreciate all of you. Technical difficulties and all, emotional and mental difficulties and all, or am I just talking about myself? I am so appreciative of you, and I hope to have some more solid announcements of what our schedule will be like for the end of the year and what will happen in 2022. Good God, I can't even say the word 2022 without feeling like I'm going to break out in a cold sweat. But we will see what happens. And I will be the one, I'll tell you, and we'll see what happens the week of Christmas. I don't know how many people will be even want to be around for Christmas open mic. I suspect there'll be family, other priorities, burning down the Christmas tree, burning down another tree at Fox News. We'll figure it out. But I'm sorry. People are like, excuse me, I cannot find how the burning down the Fox News tree, Christmas tree would be funny. And yes, it was a homeless person who did it. I don't even think he knew what tree it was, but if you're going to make a declaration for the war on Christmas, you can't find a better target. That's like the World Trade Center of Christmas trees right there for the war on Christmas. Too soon, too real. Good God. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I say anything else that gets me canceled 20 years from now, when someone actually looks at these videos, let us do the hello wave quickly. And I don't think I look like I'm up with teeth. Anyway, thank you. Yes, exactly.
Tonight.
I'm glad you did, Chris. Thank you. And you will
They
live
should play the
forever.
Talking Heads song, burning down the hit tree.
Oh, God.
Redundant, chatty poo, chatty, yay.
We'll have to do an update if I'm getting nothing for Christmas because I burned down a tree. Anyway, thank you guys very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Check out the Stone Soup Crouton poem. More to come. Show's over. Oh, God, don't get me started on cooking. Show's over. See you next time.
Baking.
No, ending now.
Yeah.
No, abort.
That's not-